Thanks for tuning in to The Leadership Beat, a Bates Communications original podcast series exploring leadership trends and inspiring leaders to innovate and think differently.
Welcome, everyone, to The Leadership Beat, a podcast that features exceptional leaders with innovative ideas. Today, I'm delighted to be sitting with Madge Meyer, who I've known and admired for many years. Madge was the Chief Innovation Officer and Technology Fellow at State Street Corporation, where she served as Executive Vice President for over a decade. Today, Madge is sharing her love and talent for leading innovation as a consultant, author, and speaker. Among her projects is working with MIT Collaborative Initiatives to bring innovative solutions to problems ranging from healthcare, education, sustainability, and veterans reintegration. Madge, welcome to The Leadership Beat.
Thank you for having me, Suzanne.
I always like to begin near the beginning in these conversations, and Madge, your story is really, truly fascinating. You grew up in China and eventually emigrated to the U.S. Talk a little bit about your upbringing. What did your parents do, and what was it like growing up in Shanghai?
You're right, Suzanne. I grew up in Shanghai, China, and when communists took over China, my parents migrated to Hong Kong with our youngest brother and leave the four girls. I have one older sister, two younger sisters. We were all trapped in Shanghai, China, with some people helping to bring us up. And we never thought we could have come to America. However, my parents' background is very westernized. They both went to American Missionary High School. My father went to the Protestant all-boys boarding school. My mother went to Catholic all-girls boarding school. So they were taught by American teachers. And their dream was send us to America for college. But when communists came, they thought that would never happen. But one lucky summer, we were able to leave Shanghai, went to Hong Kong. Now, my father was always in shipping business, and so he was traveling that time. And we were able to get 1 month visa to go to Hong Kong for the summer vacation, and we never returned.
You grew up during the Cultural Revolution when English wasn't taught in China.
It was a little bit before Cultural Revolution. So we had little Russian. I learned little Russian, and communism was very strong. So they always keep us to learn Marxism during the summertime, you know. But the lucky break really was that one summer. They said kids can go home. So we just got a month visa to go to Hong Kong.
How was it growing up in your high school years without parents around? How did you guys survive?
It was wonderful. We used to have parties in our house because nobody gave us a curfew or anything. However, I thought back, we were really well-behaved kids. Nobody drank. There were alcohol there, but we never touched it, right? We didn't even drink coffee. For some good reason, you know, we were so focused in sports. My sister was so good playing basketball, volleyball. She was the Shanghai rep for the Shanghai volleyball team. I was playing with her in the school's basketball team. I was also gymnastics and all the good things. And we had so much fun, never really thought about we missed anything, you know.
So you made it to Hong Kong and then eventually to the United States, and you moved to Texas. Tell me about that.
Yes. My mother hired an English tutor immediately after we arrived, tried to teach our English because we had nothing at all. And quickly, only a few months later, my sister was sent to U.S. Why Texas? And not only Texas, it's a small town called Belton, Texas. It's a University of Mary Hardin Baylor. It was a female college from Baylor University because she has a cousin living in Dallas. So she thought in case we need help, her cousin can take care of us. That was why we went there. And then three of us followed my older sister, all went to the same school. We loved that school because they only have one street in that little town. So there was nowhere to go. What you did? Study all the time.
You studied hard. I know you received a BS in math and chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
What were you really good at as a student? I'm guessing just about everything.
My passion is really math and science, any science. I think school has a lot to do with bringing the kids up what you like. In Shanghai that time, my parents sent us to the best school, in Shanghai. I remember it was built by American missionary school, but all the American teachers had to leave Shanghai when communists came. So we were under Chinese teachers, but they were all graduate from U.S. universities. And so they were really very, very good and with a broad perspective. And they made a lot of courses very fun for us to do. So many students, our whole family, my older sister was math and physics, I was math and chemistry, and then nutrition science and a chemistry major. And so we were all math and science.
So how did you happen to parlay math and chemistry into a career in banking, Madge?
I did not join Merrill Lynch and State Street immediately. It was IBM hired me when I was going to graduate school, statistics. And they hired me as a scientific programmer. And I was assigned to one of the very, very significant projects. They had a contract with NASA space program. So I was assigned to work on the last 3 Gemini flights, 10, 11, 12. I was the software engineer to code the actual flight, sending the astronaut to the moon.
How exciting.
And it was really exciting. The first, they gave me a thick book of formulas, by integral 0 to 1 of that. Then I have to take it down to dx/dy and then to summation. Then I can start coding machine language. At that time was a tiny GE computer I was working on. So I kept thinking, if we can use that little computer to send the astronaut to the moon, why can companies use that little computer to run the business instead of IBM's 360, which is like a huge machine, and their keyboard is like a piano size, right? I kept asking the managers, why not? They say, Madge, you always ask dumb questions.
Well, it certainly helped you, I'm sure, in your career to ask those so-called dumb questions.
Right,
Yeah.
those are the best questions.
What did you learn at NASA that you carried on in your career?
3 major themes I learned. One is innovation, because I said, oh my God, that tiny, they had a model which is even smaller than the actual rocket. Nobody can fit in, but I was tiny those years, I was the only one can fit in. You got buttons all around you to push, even including your food. You push a button and then, water will come out, all that. And it was fascinating. A small computer drive this whole rocket. The rocket will fly, right? That's where I met my husband. He was physics and math. So he understands aerodynamics and all that. How does it impact the rocket, right? So I coded the startup, right? Relative motion, then rendezvous and re-entry, the Earth, and all those modules. And he did the simulation. It was 15-digit decimal. Our numbers have to be perfectly matched. So second one I learned is zero defect execution. Because the project manager told me, you make one mistake, astronaut could die. I was really scared. I thought, why they put such a responsibility on me, the little person? So I make sure that I never make a mistake, right? Third one, speed. Sometimes they give you a change. Friday night, they say, we need it by Monday, 8 o'clock. And you don't negotiate. You just say, okay, we're not going home, So we work around the clock to make it happen. And these 3 things carry me through my entire career.
So you brought those values of innovation and zero defect and speed, I know, to your next roles, and we got to know each other when you were at State Street. How did that help you drive innovation there? Because you received, well, you were at State Street, you received a number of awards for innovation, and State Street, a bank again, an institutional, bank, received many, many awards for innovation.
Right.
How did that happen?
Well, two things I heard from my team and my boss, and when I joined State Street, is don't change. Things are working. Don't you make any change. And another thing is say, I don't want to hear you raving about how good the job you people do. So I thought, wow, because that probably he heard it from somebody. That was my thing. Is as a leader, I think you should, show off how good the job your team and reward them.
Sure.
The way I like to talk is get them more bonus or better reward. And so I figured out how to get around that issue, right? One thing I never do is fight against the empire. Because my mother always said, if the ship hits the shore, don't hit it again and again. It's not going to move.
Yes.
Right? So if you have an obstacle with your boss or the company policy, you don't hit it again. You don't even try to change it because it's too hard. You go around it. Right? So I figure how to go around. Let outside people, industry recognize our team. What a great job they did, right? So first project we finished was a network project. And it was a fantastic project. It saved the company huge amount of expense. And I decided to have the team write up. I have a little group, my business control group. They do all the marketing communications for the team. So they wrote up about our accomplishment. And then we got the awards. And it was the best thing. So it wasn't me bragging about our team. It was the industry recognized. So I was able to tell all the executives, industry just recognized State Street for this award.
Wow. So you're not just a technology leader, you are a leader of people. And that story is a great illustration of that. You really have always been someone others have admired, and you lead through inspiration. How did you learn about that, and what do you think it takes to really ignite people's interest in giving their all?
Thank you, Suzanne, for the compliment. I recognized a long time ago, one person cannot make things happen. Doesn't matter how smart a leader is, right? It really is the team. They're the asset. And how do you retain them? Our retention percent is extremely high. Why? Because I always try to listen to what they have to say and never punish them, even if it's a bad idea, because we have a methodology, a process to ask them to demonstrate business value. So I told people, since we were the IT support call center, so the value is really, how do you reduce your expense, right? If you can do better, faster, is it cheaper, right? If the return on investment is good, then we will do the project. When the project like that network finished, I sent the engineer to receive the award.
Never received it yourself. You always
I
let them
only
get the recognition.
receive if it's a big project, like a many data center, worldwide move or something, and represent all the teams. And then I will receive. However, I always throw a big party, recognize them, and usually I try to get my boss to give us extra bonus. Just give them a project recognition, right? Separate from their yearly recognition. And so that you align the reward with the behavior you want people to behave. So usually I would get an email from this engineer on the way home say, I was so happy accept this award on behalf of State Street. I'm already working on my next innovation.
Wow.
You don't have to inspire them. They're inspired already.
Yes. That's a wonderful story. You know, you have been in technology during the era when it's transformed from an operational function into a customer value and a revenue creation machine, and you've really had a front seat to the transformation of technology in organizations. What do you think the best companies are doing to leverage their technology advantages and be more competitive?
Well, so that it's hard to say. If I tell you a company name tomorrow, somebody will beat them. Right? I always say, if you're not better today, you won't be here tomorrow, probably, right? Because the competition is so keen. Now, there are many companies now that recognize technology is not an enabler. They're the literally strategic necessity for surviving, right? Innovation is not an option anymore. So if they can have an open mind, allow people to innovate, it is very hard for company to accept innovative ideas, because even very successful innovators will tell you many times we fail. You only have one success. How do you handle the failure? And I always told people it's called calculated risk, right? The fear of failure is very common among especially middle management, because they have too much to lose. And so how do you replace the fear of failure by calculated risk? So you do a small either proof of concept or a pilot project. You don't roll out the whole company, right? You roll out slowly. So when it works, you can demonstrate the savings. And, the network project was the first one we undertook when I joined State Street. And we did not roll out. We built a new network, which is a loop network, the virtual IP network. It's a new word rather than the point-to-point network. And we built in the Boston area first. Once it works very well, then roll out to Northeast, to United States, then to Europe, then Asia Pacific, just in case something happens, right? There's a way of doing that.
So you're managing the risk, and you're still taking smart risk that's going to help you be competitive and move the company forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you have parlayed your expertise into a consultancy now and a new book, The Innovator's Path by John Wiley and Sons. And the subtitle is How Individuals, Teams, and Organizations Can Make Innovation Business as Usual. What do you think is the greatest challenge in making innovation business as usual?
Culture change. Culture change is so hard, especially for successful companies, right? They literally sit on their success, and they got revenue coming in. They still have business. They don't want to change. Why should they change? I've seen many companies, almost all the technology companies, they go through that period. The more successful, the harder for the next step, right? So how do you continue to change? This is why my last chapter said evolve. Companies will succeed. They constantly evolve to new innovation. They should never be comfortable with it. Even if they're at the top of the game, right? They shouldn't be comfortable.
That's exactly when they should be evolving and changing and trying new things.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I look at it, the race is against yourself. It doesn't matter, right? The leaders also should have a feeling of the best is yet to come. I love that line from Frank Sinatra's song, right?
Yeah,
the best is yet to come. Because if you think I can do better, then you wouldn't stop.
Yes.
If you think I'm good enough, and then you stop innovating.
Yeah. Right. You have developed yourself in so many ways, including the fact that you've become a great speaker and you have a really captivating presence on stage. What do you believe is the secret to that? And maybe more important, why do you believe it's important for a leader to be able to command a room as you do?
Well, thank you. I view this as a huge compliment, because then as a Chinese, I was very quiet. I was very insecure with my not perfect English. So I was not a good speaker at all. Even long time ago, one of my bosses almost want to fire me out of his staff meeting because I didn't speak up. And then when I got to State Street, even though I have been giving speeches, but I was never confident enough. And timing was perfect. You offered this how to speak like a CEO class and how to have a media interview. I remember 2 classes I took. It really gave me the confidence, number one. Another thing is reconfirm what I thought I knew and give me some more new tips. And then I keep practicing and made it much, much better. I still learn on my way. Every time I give a speech, I say, oh, I could have done better here or there, It's a learning process. But that's one thing I know is before I spoke, every time I told myself, this is not about me or my story. Why should they care? This is about the lessons I've learned. How can I share with the audience? So it will give them the benefit that they don't have to take years to learn. They can apply to their obstacles or their challenges and all that. With that in mind, I try to use stories because people don't remember theory if I tell them the theory, but they will remember stories.
You're a great storyteller. You have always worked in very male-dominated fields, and I know you were often the only woman in the room. And while that's changing, I think many women still have that experience. How did you learn to project your voice? You've talked a little bit about that on the stage, but when you were in the room with a lot of men, you needed to make sure your ideas were heard. How did you learn to do that?
It wasn't that easy, by the way. I actually love to work with men. I learned a lot because the corporation culture still is a male culture for so many years, right? Few things they do really, really well is confidence, number one. Even their body, how they carry themselves, tremendous confidence. Even things they don't know. They have far more confidence than I knew, And second one I found out is they're very, very focused in the task ahead of them. I found out I sometimes get distracted because I have so many other ideas I thought they should apply. So I have to work really hard, say, okay, is it impacting this task? No, then I just write it down. So I have a board, I put all my ideas on the board, so I'm not going to look at it today. So over the years, I really know how to focus, right? What's important, because if you have an innovative idea, you better be really laser focused to make it happen. If vision is good, but if you don't execute, it's just a dream. IBM Steve Mills say it's a hallucination, right?
Yeah.
So you got to execute. And to execute, you got to really focus on that, And I also learned a lot of sports from men. They love to talk about, especially I used to work for one of my bosses, play football and all that. So even though I didn't know American football at all, I learned Patriots. I become a big fan of Patriots, Red Sox, right? Celtics, all those. And I was able to carry conversation because it's not all work. It's a relationship connection. Once they found, gee, Madge knows that,
They looked at you differently.
Yeah, they look at me differently. They can treat me as one of the guys, Sometimes they even say, hi, guys. Then they saw me. They said, sorry, Madge. I said, that's okay. Call me a guy. I don't care.
You have so much physical, mental, and emotional vigor. And I wonder how you maintain that. I mean, you told me a story just today about how you drove to New York and back from Boston and gave a speech in one day. I mean, that's, you're quite remarkable. Every day, every time I see you, you're just full of life. How do you do that?
Well, one thing is, I can say I was very lucky that my mother, brought us a very, very fussy about what we eat and all that stuff, And so I probably got a good base. And I was always very athletic. So that's good. Now, after I finished writing the book, I was sitting there for too many hours, 20 hours a day or something to finish it. And then once I finished it, I decided to get an exercise. I found local, there's a Pew Bar, Wellesley, right 5 minutes from my house. So now these days, I take a 1 hour class.
You go to bar class. Yeah.
Bar class. I already have achieved today. I went there also, even though I have to come in here, I still went there 1966 classes, which means almost 2,000 hours of exercise already.
Wow.
And it really helps me to, build my strength. Actually, I can carry heavier things than when I was younger now because the exercise is fantastic. And I also only focus on positive things. I think that when you're unhappy, it wastes a lot of energy. If things are not happy, I do a delete.
Just delete it.
Delete it.
It's
Totally.
doing you no good, right?
Yeah. Because a lot of times people waste their energy on things they cannot control. So I say, I can change, myself. That's the only thing. So I work on how I can improve and all that stuff. Somebody says something, it doesn't matter. To me, it's they view their opinion. I accept that. It's okay. If you can learn something, improve it, that's what's the benefit. But don't get upset.
In addition to your consulting and your speaking, I have known you to give back to the community all of your career. You're doing a lot of that now. You're on a number of nonprofit boards. Why is that important to you? And why do you keep such a rigorous schedule? How many boards are you serving on right now?
I'm trying to step down some. Used to be many. And now I'm at the board for Boston Children's Museum. I'm one of their trustees. Why Children's Museum, when I was invited to sit on the board, I accepted because I found out there are a lot of things children will learn faster than when you become an adult, right?
Yes.
I just sponsored their innovation fund. I started called Innovation Fund. One of the projects I sponsored is hire 2 certified storytellers to tell 35 young kids from Dorchester, grade 1 to 4, their storytelling.
Oh, wonderful.
And they only did a 2-week, couple sessions for them. And the difference it made is just night and day. And I decided to do the innovation funds with quite a few nonprofit organizations to help them either start computer programs, teaching people, more technology, because I don't think anybody will do well without understanding technology, or storytelling or something new that they have never done before.
What advice would you have for young people, especially young women? Because as you know, in this country, there's a big push to get girls interested in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. What advice would you give to young women who are contemplating this, whether maybe they're in middle school or high school or college or just starting their careers?
Well, first of all, the root cause really is education. I found a difference when my daughter was growing up. She always went to very good school, but the focus is more liberal arts than math and science. In China, we grew up, in high school, we cannot select courses. You take all the geometry, trigonometry, algebra. I even had a calculus in high school, and you take all the chemistry courses, physics courses, all that. Here, I think they allow kids to select. I look at it as they're too young to know. They just hear the name, they don't want to know. So, couple things the country can do better, improve their involvement in that. Now, there's a really good organization, Dean Kamen's First. He encouraged women. I was involved quite a few years, STEM, right? It's science, technology, engineering, and math. And this is why I want to help Children's Museum also, to have these things to get kids are interested in math and science, and like I just suggest that they get into the 3D printer for kids, right? So they can build things. You got to make it interesting.
Yes, make it fun,
Fun,
as you say.
yes.
Yeah.
And
As your
then they
teachers
will
did.
be, otherwise they're just afraid. They think it's hard, or it's very dry, all the formulas, all that, it's boring. If we can make it fun for them, then they will be interested in it.
As we wrap up, you are such a purposeful person. And I wonder if you could describe for me, what is your purpose today? And is there anything you're still burning to do?
Well, I consider myself, I was very, very lucky. Number one is I was able to leave Shanghai and come to United States, almost impossible those years, right? And I never even thought I could achieve to executive level, because all I wanted to be able to support myself, so I didn't have to ask parents to send money from Hong Kong. Right. And then I got to director level, to vice president, first vice president, and on. And when my boss told me about the promote to executive vice president, I thought he was going to fire me. I said, Joe, don't fire me before Christmas. Let me pass through this holiday with peace, And he said, no, you just got promoted. It's just a dream come true. And I wanted to help other people, because my career path, even though I made it, it wasn't easy at all. There are a lot of really hardship. And I think I have a lot more tools than people have, much smoother the career path. So I want to share that with people probably are struggling. They have the same issues I had, and help them to accelerate their career path.
Madge Meyer, what a pleasure to have you on Leadership Beat today. Thank you so much for sharing your inspiring story with us.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my stories.